Okay, so let's look at another reading comprehension passage, and we're still on June 2017. This one is more expository in nature, even though you find that a lot of what is being said is evidence from a personal perspective. So let us look at this one. Of all the terrifying circumstances to which one's home is vulnerable, nothing equals the experience of having a guest who stares straight at one's bookshelves. It is not the possibility that he's judging one's taste that is frightening, but the fact that one's sense of discrimination is exposed by one's books. Indeed, most people would prefer to see the guest first scan, then peer and turn away in boredom or disapproval. Too often the eyes, dark with calculation, shift from title to title, as from girl to girl in an overheated dance hall. Nor is that the worst. It is when those eyes stop moving that the heart too stops. The guest's body twitches. His hand floats up to where his eyes have led it. There is nothing to be done. You freeze, he smiles. You hear the question even as it forms. Would you mind if I borrowed this book? Mind? Why should I mind? The fact that I came upon that book in a Paris bookstall in April 1959, the 13th, I believe it was, the afternoon, it was drizzling, that I found it after searching all Europe and North America for a copy, that it is dog-eared at passages that mean more to my life than my heartbeat. Should I mind that you seek to take all that away? That I will undoubtedly never get it back? Then even if you actually return it to me one day, I will be wizened, you cavalier, and the book spoiled utterly by your mishandling? Mind? Not at all. Hope you enjoy it. Thanks. I'll bring it back next week. No rush. Take your time. Liar. Not that there is any known way to avoid these exchanges. One has books, one has friends, they are bound to beat. Charles Lamb, who rarely complained, waxed livid on the subject. Your borrowers of books, those mutilators of collections, spoilers of the symmetry of shelves, and creators of odd volumes. But how are such people to be put off? The non-return of borrowed books is a custom as old as books themselves. Still, this custom contradicts nature. In every other situation, every other such situation, the borrower becomes a slave to the lender. This is certainly true with money, yet it is not at all true with books. For some reason, a book borrower feels that a book, once taken, is now his own. This removes both memory and guilt from the transaction. Making matters worse, the lender believes it too. This was a fun read. And so we find that once you have friends and once you have books, chances are your friend's gonna want to borrow a book, especially if they after scanning your bookshelf, they see something that they think is interesting. They ask to borrow it. Deep down, you really don't want to lend them because there is some history to that book. That book means so much to you. Yet, as much as you don't want to lend them, you say, sure, take your time, man, you can borrow it. And you know you're lying, right? And the thing about borrowing and lending books is that it does say that you really never get them back. And if you do, it comes back tattered, not in the condition you lent it. Okay, that was fun. So let's answer these questions. Number 40. According to the writer in lines 1 to 9, what's the most frightening thought that occurs when a guest stares at your bookshelf? And the answer is B. Just the thought of thinking that, boy, he's going to ask to borrow one. That is the scariest thing about somebody staring at your bookshelf. B. 41. The guest looks from title to title as from girl to girl in an overheated dance hall. This comparison is intended to suggest a feeling of what? 41? Anticipation. Because now you're looking because you're anticipating that you're going to be making a choice. looking at the books to see if there's just something there for you to choose. And so anticipation is the best option. 42. The writer uses a series of short sentences in lines 7 to 8 to suggest his feeling of apprehension. And to have apprehension means to not really want to do something. Okay. 43. The writer in paragraph 2 describes in detail how he obtained the book. Remember that part? Why? Why would he go through such detail? And more than likely this is going on in his mind. But why? 43. Of course, to show why the book means so much to that person. So A, to show why he's so attached to the book. 44. The word mind. Mind? I don't mind. It's written in italics because the author wishes to emphasize what? Yes, B, that his thoughts are not spoken aloud to his friends. He actually really does mind. But this is not something that is being heard by the other person. So D is out because he really does mind. But it's really to say that this person is not speaking out loud anymore. All right, 45, and that's the italics. 45. Okay. In line 19, the writer uses square brackets. Square brackets to indicate that the word in these brackets, and this was the one about liar. So what did the writer indicate about those words? And this is 45. Right, so it's a contradiction. So you're saying, I don't mind. No, man, take your time, go ahead. But it's actually not true. So it's a contradiction of what you just said, what the writer had said before. Contradiction meaning opposite. That's not true. 46. One has books, one has friends, they are bound to meet. This statement implies that yep, they're gonna meet. So if you have books and you have friends and they're bound to meet, it means it is inevitable that your friends will want to borrow your books. So B. 47. According to the writer, which of the following is true? And the answer for this one is D. We did say when it comes to money that you become a slave because people don't tend to forget that they have borrowed money or that they've lent you money. And in C is off because it did say that you're more inclined to remember money than books. A is just off. Nobody was really saying that when you borrow a book, you're also thinking about money. And B is definitely off because it said that the guilt was gone. It's almost like when you borrow books, nobody feel your memory suddenly gone and your guilt gone. But when it comes to money, you definitely remember that more likely. Okay, and so that's it for this passage. And we're looking at more of an argumentative piece now for the reading comprehension. And you realize why it's argumentative, and it's because of the tone. This person has a lot to say, and in some cases, they're being sarcastic. So let's look at it. This is an open request to try to find who is the brain behind traffic management in Paolo. Does anyone know? I have tried traffic branch, not them. Highways, not them. Planning and development, not them. In fact, nobody wants to take responsibility for certain decisions and the mess that results. For example, Mission Road was made one way, north to south. Great idea. It worked. No traffic jams. In fact, many people were charged for going the wrong way up a one-way street. Then suddenly it's back to two-way and traffic for so. Same is true of Stoke Street. Somebody changed the stop signs at the corner for a few weeks, then they changed it back. Nobody knows why. But the best is Celestial Road in St. John, which is wrecker heaven. Somebody made this road, which apart from Broadway, is the widest street in Paolo. a no parking street either side anytime, and the wrecker is profiting from this. There are 4 major office buildings on this road, all of which provide underground parking for staff, so some, usually the lower paid, have to park elsewhere, and these are the persons whose cars the wreckers are taking away all day, every day. Again, the small man suffers. Oh, there's an exception. If you have a Canadian High Commission sticker, you can park and the wrecker will not touch your diplomatic car. Maybe we could all become diplomats. Then again, the 2 narrowest streets in Paolo allow parking. Try Delino Street off Abbey Lane. You can hardly pass. Who is the brain behind this mess? It seems the more cars we put on the road, the less parking somebody wants to allow. Who is this brain? No doubt a small man with a big car who has no name. Okay, so you can clearly hear the person's opinion coming out in this way. So let's answer the questions. 48. The writer's use of the word brain is meant to do what? So who's the brain behind this? Of course, it's to make fun of the decisions that were made. Because when the person kept saying, who's the brain, he clearly said that it was a messy situation. And so, of course, the decisions made by this person was not good decision. Were not good decisions. 48. So 48 is A. 49, not them. Remember he said he tried to find out who was responsible for the mess? And each time he went to a different area, it was not them. And so when the writer repeats not them in paragraph 1, he implies that no one wants to accept responsibility, definitely. So the answer is C. 50. Stoke Street, Celestial Road, and Delino Street can best be considered as. When he mentioned those names, he used them as examples. So B is the best answer. He used them as examples to support his point. 51. What would you say the writer's tone is? How does he sound to you? And he's very sarcastic, very sarcastic, because when he's mentioning that they're brains and he talked about small man with big car and being a diplomat, he was being very sarcastic throughout his writing. 52. The last sentence of the letter is similar to paragraph 5, and feel free to go back to justify. Both of them express disgust. That's the answer. B, 52. 53. Where do you think this letter was most likely published? Yes, in a newspaper. 53, A, in a newspaper. B wouldn't be too bad, but C and D are definitely off. And those letters to the editor? Yes, those letters to the editor, right. Sounds more fitting for a newspaper. 54. The author of this passage, who do you think this person most likely is? Definitely a motorist, because he's there, he's experiencing what's going on. He can give you examples of what the streets are like. So he is a user of the road, not somebody who just walks, but somebody who drives. So he's a motorist. And 55, again, the small man suffers, implies that the small man is often definitely disadvantaged. All right, so that's that. Hope that helps.